Luffy's journey from a young boy dreaming of the open ocean to a full-blown emperor of the sea has been nothing short of inspirational, and has made him one of the most beloved characters in all of anime. But what if Luffy's story didn't take the spotlight? In today's video, we'll explore an alternate timeline, where Sanji Vinsmoke is the main character of One Piece. First, let's establish why this theory even makes sense. Sanji isn't just some random side character. He's literally one of the monster trio alongside Zoro and one of the top-tier fighters in the franchise. More importantly, Sanji's character has all the hallmarks of a protagonist. Think about it. He has a tragic backstory involving family rejection, abuse, and finding a father figure in Zeph. Our story would pivot pretty early on because in the original series, Sanji is already a sous chef at the Baratier, a floating restaurant in the East Blue, hiding his traumatic past. But if he's the lead, we'd have to kick things off with his escape from the Germa Kingdom as a child. Young Sanji, abused and deemed a failure by his family, flees the Vinsmoke regime. His early arcs would revolve around survival and self-discovery. Rather than recruiting a crew like Luffy does, Sanji might start as a wandering chef, hopping from island to island, using his cooking skills to earn his keep. Now, every protagonist needs a core quest, and thankfully, Sanji has one that's just as legendary and mysterious as the One Piece itself. Recall why Sanji left the Baratier crew and joined the Straw Hat Pirates. As a chef, he dreams of finding the All Blue, the only point in the ocean where all four seas meet, allowing you to find fish from all corners of the world. You could argue that Sanji's goal is even more compelling than Luffy's, because unlike the One Piece, which is a mysterious artifact that no one understands, the All Blue is a more tangible and personal goal. Sanji also has all the makings of a great leader, but with a different style from Luffy. He displays a calm, collected disposition that could easily anchor a series, and is still willing to put his life on the line to save the weak. So what would our story actually look like? Well, instead of island hopping towards Laugh-Tale, our protagonist would be exploring the seas and gathering clues about the All Blue's location, while building his cooking skills and crew. Some fans suggest that All Blue might be created through the destruction of the Red Line, meaning that Sanji's quest wouldn't just be about personal fulfillment, it would be about reshaping the entire world. Instead of the iconic moment where Luffy is rescued by Shanks, the key turning point in our story is when a young Sanji learns about the All Blue from Zeph. However, there's a twist. Zeph actually has a piece of an ancient recipe or map that hints at the All Blue's true nature, giving our story a sense of direction. From this point onward, we follow Sanji on his journey of building a crew. It's possible that the monster trio still unites in this timeline, with Zoro acting as a stoic second-in-command, while Luffy would be a goofy sidekick. But this is pretty unlikely, given that Luffy's dream of becoming the Pirate King is incompatible with him being a side character. So for our timeline to work, we'll have to give up the Straw Hat crew that we all know and love. So then, what would happen to Luffy? In this timeline, he would still pursue the One Piece, and since his goals don't clash with Sanji's, they would just be rivals instead of enemies. This means that the Straw Hats could potentially be featured as recurring characters in our story, as they cooperate with Sanji's crew to fight against oppressive groups or characters. For example, we might see Sanji's crew still joining in the Summit War or Wano Country sagas, but before that, we need to figure out what exactly Sanji's crew would look like, since he probably won't take Luffy's charismatic "I want you on my crew" approach. Instead, Sanji would likely recruit people whose skills complement his culinary quest. We might still see a medic like Chopper and a navigator like Nami, but the crew may also include a botanist who knows about rare spices, or even a historian who studies ancient recipes. Sanji's scientific enhancements through his Germa heritage could also play a much bigger role in this storyline. Imagine if his modified genetics weren't just about combat, but also gave him enhanced taste, smell, and even the ability to detect the unique properties that make the All Blue special. But this is also where things get complicated. Sanji's genetic modifications from the Germa experiments would drive much of the action in his character arc. But as the protagonist, his internal struggle with becoming a monster like his siblings Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji would be the emotional core. Early on, he'd resist these enhancements, seeing them as a curse that strips his humanity. But defeats, like an alternate encounter where he's defeated by Krieg, could force an awakening. This same turmoil may lead Sanji to seek non-violent resolutions more often, with his kindness and cooking shining as his greatest strengths instead. Some scenarios could include defeating Big Mom without punches, but with an ultimate cake that sways her hunger-driven rage, emphasizing empathy over brute force. An interesting part of the story that would probably remain the same in the time skip. Unlike Zoro and Luffy, who trained under pirates known for their battle prowess, Sanji worked with Ivankov to learn new recipes while improving his combat skills on his own. This means that if he encountered the Revolutionary Army at any point in his journey, he'll probably still go to the Kambaka Kingdom at some point, and develop techniques like Hell Memories and Skywalk. Now that we've looked at the main plot, let's take a moment to look at the alternate subplots that may emerge in this timeline. What really differentiates Sanji from Luffy as a protagonist is the romance factor. While Luffy has absolutely no interest in women, Sanji is charming and chivalrous with the looks to match. So in this storyline, instead of his flirtatious nature being just a gag, Sanji's romantic escapades would be a core part of the storytelling. We could potentially have genuine romantic storylines woven throughout the adventure, perhaps with Sanji's crew including someone he has a real romantic tension with. Instead of the usual nosebleed comedy we see with the likes of Nami, Robin, and Charlotte, there would be actual character character development through Sanji's romantic relationships. Think about how this changes major story arcs. The Whole Cake Island could become a deeply personal story about Sanji, not just confronting his family, but also navigating a complex romantic situation with Pudding that has real stakes consequences for his dream of finding the All Blue. We could even have romantic interests across different islands, each teaching Sanji something new about cooking, love, or himself. This would create a more mature, emotionally rich narrative that goes beyond just power scaling and battles. The entire structure of One Piece would need to change to accommodate this shift, and instead of the current arc structure being based on liberating islands, we'd have a more exploration-focused narrative. Each arc would center around discovering ingredients, recipes, or clues related to the All Blue. Now, Sanji would probably still be fighting to free oppressed people, but the plot would often revolve around protecting rare ingredients or uncovering ancient cooking techniques. But what about the historic plot that gradually unfolds while revealing the history of the Blue Planet? The All Blue would probably still be connected to the ancient kingdom and the Void Century, so Sanji's quest could uncover the same world-shaking truth that the poneglyphs contain. But instead of focusing on characters like Joy Boy or Roger, the story would unfold through the discovery of various ancient cultures and their tales surrounding the All Blue. Given the new direction of the story, would the power scaling in this timeline be any different from what we see in the original universe? There's no real reason for Devil Fruits and Haki to not exist in a timeline where Sanji is the main character, so we still see the characters working on these skills to grow stronger. As we approach the endgame, Sanji's powers would have to somehow rise to divine or conqueror levels. It's already a pretty popular theory that Sanji has the potential to learn Conqueror's Haki, so infusing that with his already powerful Blackleg style would definitely make him a top-tier threat. But the final question is on whether Sanji's quest for the All Blue could have a similar impact to Luffy's journey to become Pirate King. We already talked about how finding the All Blue would require destroying the Red Line, which would potentially end the separation between different regions and cultures. Think about the political implications. The world government's power partly comes from controlling travel between the different seas. If the All Blue is created through the Red Line's destruction, it would eliminate many of the geographical barriers that maintain the current power structure. In this timeline, Sanji wouldn't be a pirate fighting for liberation, but his end goal might just turn him into an unwitting revolutionary. His culinary dream could bring about world peace through the literal connection of all peoples through shared waters and ingredients. Without a chaotic force like Luffy at the helm, our story might lean towards strategic alliances. Sanji's strategy to increase his influence might involve trying to build a massive fleet by uniting disparate factions like pirates, revolutionaries, even marines disillusioned by corruption. The final battle wouldn't be about claiming a throne or treasure, but about whether to create this new world. Imagine the climax being Sanji defeating Imu and the world government, but then having to choose between keeping the world as it is or achieving his dream while potentially destroying the current way of life for millions. So what do you think of this alternate One Piece with Sanji in the lead? Would the romantic and introspective captain be more compelling, or would you miss the raw energy of Luffy's adventures? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.